Welcome, friend, to the Secure Dad Podcast. I'm Andy Murphy, the creator of The Secure Dad. This podcast serves to help families become proactive in their safety. The information I share on this podcast is for general information purposes only. My goal is to empower you to make safer decisions for yourself and your family. Today we're going to talk about 3 myths that I see all the time about protecting kids in today's day and age. If you believe some of these myths, that is okay. I'm going to offer you some solid information for you to consider because I want everybody to live a safer, happier life. All of that ahead on the Secure Dad Podcast. If you've not grabbed your free copy of OSINT for Parents, you can do so at thesecuredad.com/tools. This download has gotten some really good feedback so far, and just to remind you, OSINT is an abbreviation that stands for Open Source Intelligence, which is all of the information that anybody can find out about us. Some of it's innocuous, but some of it can actually get pretty serious. With a lot of information out there about us, bad people can do bad things. But this guide goes more in depth than my podcast did. So to get your free copy of this PDF guide, go to thesecuredad.com/tools or follow the link in today's show notes. Also, before we get started, I need your opinion. I'm always looking to make the Secure Dad podcast better for everyone, and I'd really like your feedback on the show and your thoughts on how I can make it better. If you've got 5 minutes, and I'm serious, 5 minutes, click the link in today's show notes and you'll be taken to a quick survey to help me improve the show. I appreciate you sharing your free time with me, and I truly care about your thoughts. Today, I really just wanted to sit down and talk to you about 3 myths that I see all the time about protecting kids. These myths are the ones that I have personally busted in my life as being a dad. Maybe you've busted these as well. I hope you have. And before we get started, just let me say what I always say. You as a parent know more about what your kid is ready to learn. You know them. I don't. But I will challenge you to look at yourself and your motivation for holding back valuable information for kids to be successful and safe in life. The first myth, and this is a big one that a lot of people subscribe to, and it's okay. We're just going to talk about it. The first myth is that our kids must be overprotected in order to be happy. To first address this, let's figure out what happiness really is for a kid. Of course, it varies from family to family, from child to child. I admit that there was times that I thought in order for kids to feel happy, they needed to be surrounded with toys and candy and unlimited Minecraft time. But generally, kids need to feel safe, significant, and loved. It's not that complicated for them. So happiness isn't as involved or as expensive as society and the media would have us to believe. And I think you know that as a parent. If we overprotect our kids, if we shelter them too much, we actually do them a disservice. As parents, we are called to raise our kids in reality, not some idea of what we wish the world really looked like. Because when they get out on their own, and that is the goal, is for them to go out on their own, we want them to be ready for what the world may bring. By not letting our kids see the world as a beautiful but sometimes dangerous place, they'll walk into all sorts of trouble at school, at home, and with their friends. I want you to think about the animal kingdom for just a second. Wolves teach their young the ways of the world, and then they send them off to live on their own. Because if they don't, they won't survive. Wolf mothers don't let their young live with them for 10 years and still do all their hunting for them. That just doesn't happen. We have an obligation as protector parents to show our kids how to provide for themselves, see danger before it strikes, and respond accordingly. We do this as they grow, so when they are ready to go out on their own, they'll not only survive, but they're going to thrive as well. They are going to be the people that other folks are attracted to, who get the good jobs, and who are just appreciated and respected in the community. Boldly raise your children. Don't raise a victim. The next myth is that kid social media accounts are safe. Facebook was in the news again recently because they were developing an idea to create an Instagram account for kids under 13. The idea was that kids would be able to post and share images on the platform. Kids can share their art, their thoughts, and images online. What could go wrong, right? What's wrong with that? You know, humans won't be humans, I'm sure. I'm sure they'll respect the limits here. So let's think critically about 2 elements of this idea. First, why does Facebook want an app for kids? And second, How are they going to verify that all the users are kids? Okay, so here we go first. Why does Facebook want an Instagram account for kids under 13? Well, I don't know for sure. I really don't. But I imagine it has a lot to do with advertising and growing market share. Facebook isn't going to spend this much time and money developing an idea for no profit. Does that sound like Facebook to you? Doesn't sound like Facebook to me. Next, how are they going to verify the ages of all of the users? Let me tell you, pedophiles lie to people's faces every day. So lying to an app to create a kid account is nothing. Even if Instagram could create a solid verification process, how invasive would it have to be for our kids in the first place? Now, I'm not naive. I know that kids under 13 are using Instagram already, some with their parents' permission. But I don't think it's a great idea personally. Not to mention that the fact that social media for kids under 13 is not the best for your kids' mental health. Social media ain't great for me, and I'm an adult. I know what it's like to look at my business account and wonder why one post got more likes than another. Can you imagine what that stress would be like for a 10-year-old's personal account? That's just not a good combination. And next week, I'm going to follow up on this. I will have more on social media and kids' mental health in our next episode. So the last myth I want to touch on today is that we sometimes think that the news is scary and we don't need to let our kids know about what's going on in the world, especially in 2020 and 2021. Of course, if your kids are young, then you might not want them to watch the news as a kindergartner. That I understand. But as your kids mature, it's okay to let them know what's happening in their community and in their country. I remember back to January 6th of this year. My son was still on winter break, so he was at home that day. And my social media feed started like blowing up with all sorts of posts about what was going on at the Capitol. Now, I wanted to turn on the TV and see what was happening in real time, but I paused because I wasn't sure if my 8-year-old was ready to see a live national event like this, especially since I didn't know what was really going on. But then I remembered back to all of the things I watched as it developed live on TV, like the Berlin Wall coming down, Operation Desert Shield, Oklahoma City bombing, the O.J. Simpson case, and the list goes on and on and on. All of these were events that shaped me and my thoughts about my world, and chances are they affected you too. So I turned on the news, and we watched together. I did my best to explain what was happening and try to answer any questions that he had, and you know what? There were no nightmares. There was no real shock or bad side effects from that event, and we watched it live. We underestimate how resilient and how logical our kids can be. January 6th is one of those significant events that you are going to remember where you were when you heard about it, just like 9/11. My son experienced this with me. We talked about it, and he grew up some that day. We can't deny our kids the chance to grow up in the face of a national event. So letting your kids know what's going on in the world is a chance for them to learn and to grow. We shouldn't be so quick to deny them those opportunities. I know these myths seem wide-ranging, but the truth is we can't overprotect our kids. There's a balance to all of this, and it's up to us as parents to strike that balance. Sometimes we're going to get it right, and other times we won't. Protector parenting is a process. We are not called to raise victims. We are called to raise the next generation of protectors. That's all we have for the Secure Dad podcast for today. Thank you, friend, for listening. Before we go, I'd like to know how to make the Secure Dad podcast better for all of us. To give me your thoughts, take the Secure Dad podcast survey by clicking the link in today's show notes. It will only take 5 minutes. I promise, only 5 minutes. Don't forget to follow the Secure Dad podcast wherever you are listening to this show. That way you don't miss a single episode. I'm Andy Murphy, and until next time, take care and boldly raise your children.